Good morning, friends from around the world. I'm so happy to be sharing this morning with you. We are here in Playa Hermosa, Costa Rica, another beautiful day in the dry season. And this morning we have a truly marvelous show planned. We are going to explore some very deep subjects. The subject of being your authentic self, the subject of being open to being vulnerable, and all the glorious power that lies within those two things. And the guest that we have today is a very fascinating man, and he's done a variety of jobs. He's traveled all around, and now he works as a CEO on demand, basically helping lead organizations. And he's truly a business expert, but also a very wise guy. So I'm super honored to have him joining us today. Thank you very much for taking time out of your busy schedule to share this morning with us. Please let us know where you're watching from in the comments so we can get an idea of who's tuning in. So this show is brought to you by karmatribe, which is a global community of people willing to help each other for free. And it works through our website, karmatribe.com, where you can make a profile and then offer any kind of free service that you would be happy to offer to the world. And you can also request anything that you need. And so if you check out karmatribe.com, I will throw it up on the screen in case your spelling is not the best. karmatribe.com. We have thousands of people in over 60 countries that are offering all kinds of free services on there, because we all have unique gifts and we all have different needs, and it's time to start connecting these together to live in a more harmonious and collaborative world. And of course, it feels good to share what you're good at. So that's what it's all about. So thank you, friends, for being here with us. So without any further ado, I would like to welcome the fascinating, the remarkable Alejandro Egea to the show. Welcome.
Hey, how are you, Dave?
Doing great, Ale. Thanks so much for joining us today.
Thank you. I'm really happy to be over here, and hello to everyone on the tribe.
So, Alejandro, before we get into the real meat and potatoes of today's show, today is actually a very important day for Costa Rica. Could you tell us a bit what's happening?
Sure. Today we have the second round of presidential elections. We have been an independent nation since 1821, and we are choosing who's going to be our president for the 200th anniversary of Costa Rica. We have something that it's easy, and it's that we know that the president will be last name Alvarado. But we don't know if it's Carlos or Fabricio. So hopefully all the Costa Ricans go today to vote, jale a votar, because we have a lot of things going on. So, yeah, going to do the show with you, really excited, and then I'm going ahead to vote with my family.
Awesome, that's great. Do you talk about your votes together, or is it a kind of a secret personal thing?
No, I mean, like, I will tell you who I'm going to vote. I'm going to vote for Carlos Alvarado, something that I wasn't planning on, but we have to choose. And so I'm choosing someone that I think is going to be a good leader, someone that I think has good criteria, that has personality, and someone that I see myself talking to as a president, and knowing that if we disagree on many items, as we do, he's going to give me a good reason why. So that's who I'm voting for.
Well, great. Well, thank you, Alejandro, for bringing up such an important message to go out and vote. We have to support the democratic system. It's so important, and we're really lucky to live in a democracy.
For sure. Yeah, we are. And we're really happy also that we have people from around the world coming to Costa Rica and live with us. So that's also important for us to vote to maintain all the democratic values that we believe in.
Now, if you ever decide to make your citizenship process a little easier, I will myself vote at the next opportunity.
That should be very important. Definitely.
So Alejandro, could you please introduce yourself a little bit? Tell us a bit about who you are, where you're from, and where you are now.
Yeah, thank you. My name is Alejandro Egea. I'm from Costa Rica. I consider myself a person that is pursuing to be a happier self and someone that helps others be happier and have better quality of life. Professionally, I'm an entrepreneur since more or less a year and a half ago, and I'm a CEO on demand. My company's name is Halo, and basically, what I try is to help business owners to have better life quality and better operational results through my accompanying services.
Wow, fascinating. CEO on demand. I've never heard of that.
Yeah, me neither. Something cool happened when I was traveling around India, and so I don't know if the concept exists anywhere in the world. Probably yes, but for the moment, I haven't seen anyone that does it. So it's interesting to always receive that feedback of what is a CEO on demand and stuff.
So Alejandro, so you've traveled through India. I remember us talking, and I remember hearing about some of your travels. You've traveled quite extensively, and I remember you telling me that you really grew as a person from your travels, and the Alejandro who came back from India was not the same as the Alejandro who left. Could you
Yeah.
share a bit about what you learned about yourself in those experiences?
Yeah, so basically, I really enjoy traveling. Over the last 8 years, I have the opportunity to have traveled by myself on different occasions. And always I take traveling as an opportunity to reflect on who I am, to try to take that opportunity also to take, like a step back in what I've done in my life and try to bring it as an open canvas and see whatever happens after that trip. So 5 years and a half ago, I was in between jobs. I was doing investment banking, and I decided to take a job as a director of an NGO in Costa Rica. And I went 3 weeks to Peru and Bolivia. It was the first time I really traveled by myself for so many time, and I think that in that moment, I really reflected on why I was doing such a big change in my life from being in investment banking and consulting and going to the social sector. After that, a year and a half later, I went to China and I traveled 2 weeks by myself as well. And in that case, it was more about living the moment and just trying to take a lot of uncomfortable decisions. So I went walking through from one village to the other by myself. I didn't know any Mandarin, so I figured out that the best way to communicate was buying cigarettes, because I was seeing that a lot of people smoke cigarettes and they were playing mahjong. So I basically, in order to get people to help me out, I would give them cigarettes, and then that would create like a good energy, and then just by sign language we would define where we would go to. And in that trip I just tried to get as uncomfortable as possible. So I would tell people like, can you write me what you eat? And I don't know what they were going to eat, but they were locals, so they would write me in a sheet of paper, and I would tell them, where do you go to eat? And they tell me where they want to eat, and they said, are you sure you want to go? That's a local place. And I was like, yeah, there's no problem. And I would get there, hand them in to the person serving in the restaurant that note of paper, and I would eat it, regardless of what it was. I think in many occasions I didn't know what I was eating, but at least I was, challenging myself to do something different. And then my last travel was going 65 days to India, Myanmar, Cambodia, Vietnam, and Thailand. And something that I learned there was I had never had a business idea. I was in between jobs. I didn't know what I wanted to do with my life. Before leaving on the trip, I received a job offer, and it was either accepting that job or going traveling by myself. And I remember that when I said I didn't want to take the job, I said, I can pardon myself saying no to you and your company, but I cannot pardon myself saying no to myself. And I think it was like the easiest way to accept that I was not going to take a job. It was being authentic, it was being vulnerable, and it was just taking a gamble that whatever happened next was probably going to be for a good reason. And it ended up being like that. It ended up that I had 5 business ideas. I had never had a business idea before, and I've been working with entrepreneurs and social entrepreneurs and NGOs, and I had never had a business idea. So that was very frustrating. But I remember I was going to the Ranakpur temple in India, which is an amazing and beautiful place, and I had 5 business ideas, Dave. 5. That was just so crazy. And it definitely was because I was in a good mood of just being open and trying to define who I was going to be as a person.
Seems like there's so many lessons there in what you said, in listening to your heart, treating yourself well, doing what you need, and that kind of gave you the space to then have all these ideas come to you, which ultimately would transform into gifts for the world. And it's beneficial for the world around you ultimately when you treat yourself right.
Definitely, and I think we don't do that very often. And I think you notice when people take that chance to be authentic, to open themselves, to fail, or to try, or even to forgive. And I think that is something that I particularly like and admire from karmatribe and from you. That is something that is just like something so challenging, and it's building upon just happiness and just giving back regardless of what you get in return. And oftentimes the hard lesson, and I've heard a lot of people is saying, why didn't I do it before? But I think it's a self journey that you have to take at a certain moment of your life whenever you are ready.
So I'm curious, first of all, not everyone goes traveling in these places, but even among those who go traveling, many people aren't just asking locals for suggestions of what to eat on the menu and stepping out of their comfort zone completely and walking from village to village. Is there something like that happened in your life, or something like, why did you go in with such an attitude to really live your experience to the fullest?
So I remember in my first job, I was once having a lunch, and one of the senior partners, Mr. Harry Strachan, went to have a lunch, and he sat with me, and I was like, oh my God, I have to make the most out of this conversation. So I asked him listen, if you had to share a piece of advice of whatever you've done in your life, either professionally or personally, what would you tell someone that is starting its career? So naturally I was expecting something more professional. And the answer was both astonishing and very authentic. And he was like, listen, whatever you do with your money, invest it in experiences. Don't spend it in things. And for me, it was wow, that sentence on itself is so pure, So every time I have the opportunity to do something different, especially travel-wise, I tried to do it. And I remember that when I was young and I traveled with my parents, my father would be very strategic, and he would take it it's okay, so 9 a.m. we're going this place, 10 a.m. we're going to, and I really didn't feel like I enjoyed it. So I think the rebel in me it's more whenever I have the opportunity to do something, just be bold and let the universe take care of itself. And many times the easiest way of finding an answer is just asking. And I think many times we don't want to ask, we just want to do it all by ourselves. And there's a level of vulnerability that you have to embrace whenever you are in a different place and you don't know anything, and you just have listen, what would you do? And just a tip of advice that somebody told me is, whenever I go to a restaurant or a hotel, I ask if you could only be over here once, what would you try to eat, or where would you go, or what would you do? And that is very pure, because then in the end it's just as personal as saying Dave, if I was only one day in Jaco, what would you recommend me to do? Probably that is going to be more authentic and less touristic.
Yeah, that's a great trick. I'm going to try that one. So Alejandro, I I hope this doesn't embarrass you, but I want to read this thing that I saw on your that you posted a little while ago on your birthday, and I translated into English, and you said I'm paraphrasing here, but you said like this year I learned to invest in me and explore my emotions and become vulnerable, learning to forgive myself and forgive others, to open up, to know myself, to cry, to become aware, and to live my emotions. Um, so was there, have you been experiencing like, uh, a transformation lately, or is this something that you've been building up over the years, or where does this sudden emphasis in your life come from to being vulnerable and authentic?
Uh, Man, it's something very personal, and I'm really happy to talk about it. First, I think that on a level of humanity or gender-wise, I think we men are configured not to share our emotions. Uh, I really don't know how to cry, and it's not something that you learn. But over the years, what I've been learning is that I tend to block my emotions. And whenever I talk of this with other friends, especially male friends, I say that that's a pattern, like we don't know how to express our emotions. We tend to repress them, and we tend not to share what we as men feel. I lost my father a bit more than 10 years ago. And I like, for me, it was very difficult because I didn't cry. I didn't admit his death. I was just like, because I'm the eldest and I was living abroad studying, I never had the opportunity to really cry and just let my emotions go. And that was something that over the course of the next years really affected me, because it was something that I was just so focused on helping my family, of trying to be, like the superhero of just trying to help out my mother, just trying to help out my brother, and just trying to finish school. And I really never had the opportunity to open myself and just breathe. And so what I've tried to do during the last year and a half is to be more open, to be more vulnerable, to just show my emotions, uh, and just try to destroy that myth that is is okay not to cry. And what I've been trying to do, at least with my friends, is to be more open and to try to cry more, and just to show my emotions, because I've seen that many times I was like a robot, and I had the opportunity to be in a position of leadership in two organizations when I was very young, as a general director or CEO. And uh, and instinctively, the first two times I was, like very strong, like try to be a know-it-all and just try to have zero emotions. And ultimately, that backfired a lot. So I really like to talk about emotions, and I just try to strive others to be more open and to show their vulnerability and to be more authentic, because I think that not only that is going to produce better results, but it's also going to heal a lot of things that we don't tend to heal.
Wow, thank you for sharing that story. Um, there's a comment. Jordi say, "What a beautiful story! Thank you for sharing. Thank you very much, Yor, for tuning in and sharing your feelings." Like I hearing your story, Alejandro, I experienced like some like goosebumps and like truly like it was like impactful to listen to this story and very touching. And it just made me think that by you being vulnerable and authentic, not only is that creating a lot of healing for yourself, but it radiates to other people, and it's like teaching by example, and it's really inspiring. And it's just an example of something that if you just tell people to be vulnerable and authentic, it doesn't really work. But if you yourself are vulnerable and authentic, you become a great teacher to everyone around you. And so don't underestimate the impact that you can have on other people by just really being yourself and getting in touch with how you're really feeling. So I just think it's so beautiful, this transformation you're going through from robot to to truly like conscientious human being with feelings and everything. And also, like, it must be so hard to like lose a parent, like in your, I guess this was in your like teenage years. And
Yeah.
I can't imagine. And then for not crying from that, probably you carried some guilt for not crying from it, you know, and probably all these different layers of pain like weighed down on you. So I just think you're truly an inspiration, Alejandro. And
No, thank you. I think that it's interesting because the minute you start focusing on those things and you try to be more vulnerable, learning how to say sorry, learning to accept that you screwed up, learning to accept that not everything has to be okay always, but that you have the power to just say, "Hey, I'm sorry," or "I feel bad," or "I need help," or "I just want to cry." Those are things that I hadn't experienced. Like being Costa Rican, many times you are always happy, happy, and how are you? Yeah, doing great, and you put a vida and stuff, and I think that not many of us really know how to be vulnerable or open or cry, and we need that more. We I mean, like, whenever you are vulnerable, either because you're extremely happy or because you're extremely sad, uh, those are feelings, and we are needing that. Like, every time somebody shares something from the bottom of their heart, they connect. And you can see it in politics. When things get emotional, people tend to engage more. Commercially, when you are vulnerable and you say, "Hey, sorry, we screwed up," people tend to accept it more, and we not only need that more, but we eager it. And the moment that you do it and you open it, and in my case, you accept that your father died and that it was something very difficult and traumatic, but you engage with it, that makes a changes. And I couldn't be happier that in this moment I'm feeling vulnerable and happier, although I'm very sad. But those are emotions that many times I didn't have. So really, I appreciate you and everybody that is viewing, because it's nice to be open and be vulnerable.
yeah, absolutely. There's some comments coming in. Jack Niel says, "Hi guys, have a good day." And M says, "Authenticity, vulnerability, and mindfulness are the traits of the most inspirational leaders. Thank you for your presence."
Thank you, the three of you guys, for your comments.
Yeah, it's true that you can't really be a good leader if you're not authentic. This is something I feel like intuitively, but has that also been your experience? And now you're actually like stepping in as a CEO in some pretty big companies, and do you find that these kind of principles transmit into leadership a lot?
Definitely, because whenever you are in a position of authority, doesn't necessarily mean that you are in a position of leadership. And I think that, as Em was saying, the more you are authentic, the more you are vulnerable, and the more presence you have, uh, through mindfulness, and through other types of just presence, you really get to connect more. And as I was saying before, many times what we really need is just connecting with others at an emotional level, not only in a position of authority, not only in a position of decision making, because at the end, what you feel of a leader is more that that person has empathy, that is present, and that really knows what's going on. In our culture, we tend to to see leadership as more strong, as more fierce, as more bold, but not necessarily. Because at the end, if you are the leader of a company or if you are the owner of a company, you have a lot of responsibilities. But that doesn't mean that you cannot be vulnerable. And so, really, when I started Halo and doing the CEO on demand service, what I was looking for, and I was building upon the trait that I saw in many leaders that I worked with or worked for, was that there's a lot of loneliness when you are the owner of a company or the CEO of a company, that you don't have that emotional visa to show that vulnerability, that you don't have that emotional guidance to just be yourself. And many times these things are self-imposed. You know, nobody tells you in your job description you have to be fierce and you have to be strong. It's something that we many times expected to. But in my experience, when you're vulnerable, when you say, and I tell that to my clients, listen, we're going to fail. I don't know at what scale, I don't know when, but I know we're going to do it. And it's not because we want to fail, it's because it's implicit with taking decisions. So that's where, if you're all vulnerable and you just ask or say, listen, I'm not very sure, you can build on that.
Yeah, absolutely. There's these like kind of paradoxes that come to mind of like, well, for example, when you get a taste of death is when you really start to experience life, you know? When you become open to failing is when you can really start being successful, basically. And similarly, I think that when you can become vulnerable, in a way, that's when you can become invulnerable, because it's like if you're completely open with how you feel and you have authentic relationships with everyone around you, there's nothing that gets buried or nothing that can damage the relationship in a subtle way. Like the relationship becomes very, very healthy. Do you agree with that?
Completely. And we need more of that. We need more healthy relationships. We need more love in relationships. And we also need more forgiveness in relationship. And I tell you, I'm learning on it. And that's something that I have to work a lot more. But we need it, definitely.
Absolutely. This also makes me think that like this previous paradigm of companies having to be like cutthroat and competitive and like fierce leaders and very like masculine kind of like dominant energy and like imperialism and everything. This is out of a paradigm of competition, like competing, you know, for territory and resources. But we humans, we don't need to see the world like that anymore. Like we can have a paradigm of collaboration, which is like different organizations being like, okay, well, what are you trying to accomplish? Like, what do you need? What do you need help with? Like, let's try to do this together. And that kind of seems like a more kind of like almost like feminine energy, like being open to receiving and open to developing a relationship and being transparent and everything. I think we could, even like the entire economy and everything could really benefit from starting to have a collaboration kind of paradigm.
Yeah, and I think that at the end, competition doesn't mean that in order for you to do better than whomever you're competing, that person has to do worse. I mean, like, you can see thousands of examples in sports, Federer and Nadal, Ronaldo and Messi, or even between companies. Competition allows you to go deeper because that person is on the other side of you. But that doesn't mean that you have to go on unethical, that you have to do practices that you are not happy to do so or proud of doing it. I think that's just self-imposed. You know, like you and I can compete and we can be perfect friends. It's not contradicting at all. And I think that because we are talking more about authenticity, vulnerability, happiness, we're also seeing a shift in the economy, many times driven by consumers. because we care. It's not good enough for us to just buy for whomever is cheaper, or buy from whomever does whatever it needs to just crush it. Maybe it was that before, but now, because we're talking about more mindfulness, because we're talking about presence, and because consumers are also more driven by that, then that changes completely the game. I mean, I remember a lot, as many of us probably, that 2008 elections, about how Obama was just making a very emotional campaign about the power of self. And I know that for all of us that are not from the US, what we saw in these campaigns, with Trump against Hillary, or in Costa Rica, what has happened in these recent elections, we see that we can also be very emotional on the negative side, but we are passionate about positivity, and we need that more in the world, and we respect it. And the more is done, probably in the short term, may not give you a competitive edge, but in the medium and in the long term, either personally, professionally, or on a corporate level, that does show up.
Mm-hmm.
And just to give you a small example, I think that Costa Ricans were very proud to be the happiest country in the world. That was like 4 or 5 years ago, but we are very happy to sell that, you know? And I think that's because it goes back to the essence of humanity, of saying, like, we are really proud of things that are positive, and we need that more.
Absolutely. Well, Alejandro, I could talk with you all day. You're so wise and authentic, and thank you so much for joining us today, and sharing your journey with our viewers. And I don't want to keep you any longer, because I need to make sure that you go vote. But but yeah, thanks for being with us, Alejandro, and hope to see you again soon.
No, thank you, and all the viewers. Thank you for talking about authenticity and vulnerability and happiness. I think that we need to talk more of that, and we need to share more our feelings, our emotions. I think that the key for life is just to try to be happy, you know, and within that happiness, you have to also be emotional. And I really appreciate this space. And for everyone that is from Costa Rica, jale a votar. We have a new president today at night, and may all of us be winners. Pura vida.
Pura vida. Thank you so much, Ale. Wise words from a wise friend.
Thank you, my friend. Thank you. Gracias. Pura vida.
Well, friends, I hope you enjoyed that interview. Thank you for being here with us. Let us know where you're watching from in the comments. This is always fascinating to hear. I know we have viewers tuning in from all around the world. And now it is time for our favors of the week. These are some favors recently offered and requested on the karmatribe site. And I also want to say, Happy Easter to everyone. I hope you are enjoying a wonderful Easter weekend with your loved ones. So, friends, without any further ado, here are the favors of the week. Okay, we have a request here from Pajarita213, actually in Playa Hermosa, Costa Rica, where I live. She's requesting Spanish practice lessons. She says, I would love to conversationally practice my Spanish with anyone willing to help. So, friends, if you speak Spanish, please consider giving Pajarita a hand. This can be in person or it can be online. As I always say, learning Spanish was the most enriching thing that happened to me in my life. So give that gift to someone else. Next, we have an offer from Olivia Jean Lansing in Halifax, Nova Scotia, Canada. This is the east coast of Canada. She offers basic English speaking. So she offers the basics, English conversations, and new friends. Yes, that's what always happens when you start teaching someone something is you end up becoming friends. That happens to me in all the Karma Tribe favors that I get involved in. And so if you want to learn English, si su inglés está mal, contáctese con ella. The links will be in the post a little later. We have a comment from Ana. Very proud of you, my dear son. This must be Alejandro's mom tuning in. What a beautiful message. Ana, you truly gave an amazing gift to the world when you had Alejandro. Thank you for being such a great mom. Mm-hmm. Next, we have an offer from Gabi Mat Surf, also in Playa Hermosa, Costa Rica. She offers a surf lesson or company for surfing. She says, I love to surf. I try to surf every morning. Let me know if you want to get together and explore other beaches. I can also teach you and provide soft top boards. Why? Let me just say, we recently added this why field to the Karma Tribe favors. So it's amazing to see why people are offering and requesting these favors. She says, why? Surfing has made me a healthier and more patient person. I would love to spread the love for my passion. Wonderful. Don't miss this opportunity to learn to surf here with Gabi. Next, we have an offer from LVF in Jaco, Costa Rica. This week, we've had lots of favors offered in this area, but this is available also in person and online. She offers environmental education workshop. She says, I can organize and facilitate a workshop on various topics dealing with conservation and community sustainability. Why? It is my passion. And finally, we have an offer from Alonso Gonzalez in San Jose, Costa Rica for front-end website upgrades. I'm a developer with 5 years experience in creating beautiful websites. I would love to help you improve your website. What a beautiful offer, and a very valuable one too, because this is a very high in demand skill. So thank you, kind friends, for offering and requesting your gifts through Karma Tribe, for being open to accepting the gifts of others. We are truly creating a more beautiful world together. And thank you for joining us on this wonderful day. If you're Costa Rican, hope you will vote today. And if you are not Costa Rican, just enjoy a wonderful Easter weekend. Thank you, friends, and see you next week for another episode. Goodbye.